Welcome to Creepy Talks. Story 1, Isle of Echoes. 1. The Dollar Tree off Delhart Road didn't look special. A small green and white logo flickered in the evening breeze above warped glass doors. Half the bulbs in the sign were dim or dead, making the Dollar Tree words look like doll, tear. Cars rarely stopped here anymore. Locals claimed it always smelled slightly metallic, even if nothing inside should. When 19-year-old Sarah Kelton applied for a job there, she thought she knew what she was getting. Long hours, low pay, quiet nights. She hoped it would be easier than her last job at the gas station, especially after the incident that cost her her sleep and her trust in strangers. She hadn't shared that story with anyone here. They didn't ask. Her first shift was a Tuesday evening. The sky was purple, streaked like bruised flesh. It threatened rain but never delivered. Inside, she met her manager, a tired-looking man named Grant, who had an impressive beard and unimpressive posture. He looked like someone who'd been in retail too long. His eyes unfocused slightly and slid across the store as though searching for something just out of sight. "You'll be on closing shift tonight," he said. "It's quiet here. If anything seems weird, just leave it alone." She tried to laugh. "Weird how?" Grant shrugged. "Customers, stock, vending machines. Don't overthink it. Clock out at midnight." That was not comforting. 2. The store felt colder than it should, especially for August. The air vents rattled overhead, and the shelves were overstocked in strange patterns. One aisle had 9 full shelves of off-brand dish soap, hundreds of bottles, more than she'd ever imagined selling. Another aisle was half empty, nothing but a few birthday cards spaced inches apart. The fluorescent lights buzzed painfully, flickering with slow, rhythmic pulses. During her first hour, only 2 customers came in. The first was a man in a brown coat who never approached the register. He wandered every aisle with a slow shuffle, never picking anything up, whispering to himself. She thought he was talking on the phone until she realized his phone was in his pocket. The second was an old woman who only bought a single object, the small silver bell from the holiday section that shouldn't have been stocked in August. "My father gave me one just like this," she told Sarah, voice rasping. "I lost it somewhere. It's good it found me again." Sarah didn't know how to respond. She rang up the bell. The drawer clinked, and the old woman shuffled out. The bell's sound lingered unnaturally in the air after she'd gone. Thin, high, a ringing thread that vibrated through the store. It held on too long, far too long. When it finally faded, the store was silent. 3 little before 10 p.m., as she restocked the greeting cards, she heard footsteps in the next aisle. Quick, light, rhythmic steps like a child running. The store was empty. "Hello," she called. No answer. She peeked around the corner. A shopping basket lay abandoned on the floor. It hadn't been there before. Still warm, as though recently held. She picked it up. Inside were 3 items: a cracked picture frame, a children's puzzle, missing pieces rattled, a small black candle, wick unused. Someone must have left these, but no one was there. She put the basket behind the register, telling herself she'd find a place to return everything later. But the child-sized footsteps returned every time she turned her back. Darting, pacing, circling, never approaching. At 10:42 p.m., the intercom clicked on by itself. "Shh." Static. A voice whispered through the static. Faint, a child's voice. "Help! Return me." She froze. The air seemed to thicken. "Who is this?" she demanded, though everything in her told her she didn't want the answer. No reply. Just the faint echo of sobbing. The lights flickered, then steadied. She looked toward the greeting card aisle again. Something stood in the middle of it, A small shape, a child. She took one step forward. The light stuttered. The shape was gone. For near closing, Grant texted her to begin shutting down. She was too shaken to reply. She checked the back stockroom. The overhead light had been left on. She flicked the switch, and the light stayed lit. She flicked again. Nothing. The switch clicked, but the bulb glared unwaveringly. She stepped inside. A dull scent filled her nostrils, a chemical sweetness mixed with mold. Boxes lined the walls, stacked impossibly high, some leaning, one torn open. Black candles spilled from it, dozens, maybe hundreds. A faint bell rang. She spun. A child's giggle echoed between the boxes, soft, mocking. At the far end of the stockroom, she saw a hanging strip of tinsel glimmering, holiday decorations. It caught her eye because it wasn't there when she walked in. It almost seemed to move. She approached slowly. Halfway there, the light overhead flicked off. Pitch black. She lunged back toward the doorway, heart hammering, fumbling for her phone. She flashed the screen like a weak flashlight. Her beam caught something. A child's face, white, featureless, except for wide black eyes, peeked from behind a tall stack of boxes. Sarah screamed. The face vanished. She dropped her phone, scrambled for the doorway, and collapsed into the lit store area. The door swung behind her and slammed shut. She did not go back in. 5. At a minute before midnight, she waited anxiously at the front door. Her skin prickled. The store felt hostile. The lights buzzed louder. The air trembled. Every aisle seemed to whisper. When the clock struck 12, she pushed through the doors and ran to her car. A small silver bell waited on the driver's seat. She stared through the window. It rang once, without being touched, and again, and again. She left it there. She drove home shaking, unable to speak. Story 2. Manager Special. 2 months earlier, Grant had hired another teen. Avon, a kid with shaggy hair who always wore headphones and smelled faintly of lighter fluid. Evan liked the job. It was boring. He could steal snacks. He could goof off. Nobody cared. He thought Grant was a pushover. But something changed. Grant never smiled anymore. He avoided the aisles after closing. Evan didn't notice much except for the smell. One night in June, Grant asked Evan to help clean up the back. The stockroom had a leak. Brownish water pooled across the concrete. As they pushed supplies into the trash compactor, Evan noticed Grant watching the floor like he feared something might rise from it. Grant muttered, "We should never have kept it open." "What?" Evan asked. "Nothing. Hurry." They finished at midnight. Grant moved strangely then, pacing down aisles, whispering to himself. He kept opening and closing drawers, counting bills, recounting, shaking his head. "Long night, huh?" Evan said. Grant didn't answer. 2 after closing, Evan headed to the bathroom. The flickering lights made it look dirtier than usual. A mop leaned in the corner, dripping though unused. Something scratched faintly inside the wall, like a creature trapped behind the tile. Evan rolled his eyes. "Rats," he muttered. As he washed his hands, the scratched letters on the grimy mirror started to become clear beneath the steam. "Return him." Evan froze. He wiped the mirror. The message vanished. He shook his head and laughed nervously. Prank. Must be. But he noticed something. The reflection behind him looked slightly wrong. In the mirror, the aisle beyond the bathroom doorway was dark, even though the lights were still on. And something was standing there. Something child-sized. Evan spun around. Nothing there. He exhaled shakily. "Okay, time to go. 3. He walked toward the exit. Grant stood there, pale, sweating. "You hear anything?" the manager whispered. "What?" Voices, someone asking for help. Evan hesitated. He didn't want to sound scared. Nah. Grant nodded, relieved, or maybe terrified. He whispered, if you hear them, don't answer. Evan forced a laugh. Dude, I just work here. Grant didn't smile. That night, Evan dreamed of shelves filled with bones instead of merchandise. A row of black candles lit themselves. A child's face peeked at him from a cardboard box. When he woke, his sheets were streaked with black soot. 4. The next night he worked alone. Around 11:30, a customer walked in. A man in a brown coat. He set a silver bell on the counter. I need to return this, he whispered. His voice was dry, dusty. It doesn't belong to me. Do you have a receipt? The man's eyes widened. No. We can't do returns without receipts. The man trembled. He wants to come back, he whispered. Evan frowned. Who? The man opened his mouth. A shrill scream burst from his throat, so loud the shelves rattled. Evan staggered back. The man collapsed, writhing, clawing at his chest as though something inside was tearing him apart. Then, silence. The man lay still. Evan bolted to the phone, shaking. He called 911. No signal. He tried again. Nothing. He tried to leave, but the doors wouldn't open. The man in the brown coat sat up. His mouth was black, like soot or ash. He's here, he whispered. Please, return him. A child's laughter echoed from the greeting card aisle. Evan grabbed his things, sprinted to the stockroom. Black candles covered the floor. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Their wicks ignited one by one, circling him. As the flames surrounded him, the shadows deepened, and a small figure stepped out. A child, skin white like paper, eyes pits of black. Help me, it whispered. The flames died. Everything went dark. Evan never came out. Grant told police the kid just stopped showing up. But sometimes employees swear they see him wandering the aisles, whispering to himself, basket in hand. Story 3, Discount Souls. One, the Dollar Tree on Delhart Road wasn't the only one infected. 3 towns over in Wilmouth, another Dollar Tree quietly received strange shipments. Boxes marked only with a crude bell symbol. Maria, night supervisor, signed for the boxes reluctantly. They were heavier than they looked. Inside, black candles, a few wooden toys, and dozens of cards, blank, pure white, no text. The cards unsettled her the most. When she touched them, they felt wrong, like cold skin. 2. One evening while organizing seasonal items, Maria heard the bell on the front door ring. A couple entered, pale, silent, dressed in clothes a decade out of style. They walked straight to the cards, picking up dozens, slipping them into their baskets. At the register, they stared at Maria without blinking. You found what you wanted, she asked awkwardly. They nodded in perfect sync. The husband whispered, we are invited. The wife whispered, we must bring more. They paid with exact change, coins so cold they burned Maria's palm. As they left, the automatic doors jammed mid-slide, twitching like a nervous mouth. Then they were gone. 3. That night, Maria heard rustling from aisle 6. She found 3 children sitting on the floor, sorting blank cards into piles. None of them reacted when she approached. Kids, where are your parents? They didn't speak. She tried to take a card. One child grabbed her wrist, grip ice cold. Not yours, he whispered. She yanked away. I'm calling the police. The children began to hum, a low, discordant tune that scraped against her skull. The lights flickered. Every aisle echoed with humming as more children stepped from behind shelves, from beneath end caps, from inside cardboard boxes. Too many of them, silent, pale. She ran. The doors wouldn't open. She grabbed her phone, no signal. The humming grew louder, pressing into her skull, drowning her thoughts. She fainted. When she woke, she was outside, lying on the sidewalk. The store was dark. Her keys were gone. She never went back. The store closed a week later. No reason given, but workers from the demolition company reported finding hundreds of blank cards scattered across the floor, each with a child's face drawn in black ink. None of them the same. Story 4. The Bell Collector. One Grant never planned to become a Dollar Tree manager. He had worked in restaurants, then furniture stores. He hated retail, but he had needed a job after moving to Delhart, and Dollar Tree was the only place hiring. On his first day, the previous manager showed him 3 things: the register, the schedule binder, and a locked drawer beneath the counter. "This you never open," the manager said, tapping it. "What's inside?" "That's the problem." The manager stared at him with exhausted eyes. "I'm leaving. Just don't let them take inventory at night." "Who?" "You'll see." The manager left, slamming the door. Grant thought it was some kind of hazing, but he never found the man again. No contact info, no record of him in the system. Corporate claimed the manager had quit months earlier. So who had trained him? 2. The first time Grant heard the bell was 2 days later. It rang from the locked drawer beneath the register, soft, almost playful. He ignored it. It rang again. He leaned down, opened the drawer. Inside sat a single bell, small, silver. It rang once more, without being touched. Grant slammed the drawer shut. Do not let them take inventory at night. He didn't know what that meant, but he left early that night and drove to his apartment, trying to forget. The bell followed him into his dreams. 3 over the next week, the store changed. New shipments arrived with strange items, not on any manifest. Black candles, small picture frames, children's shoes, bells. When he emailed corporate, they claimed the shipments didn't exist. That's when the first customer came, a child, barefoot. He wandered the store quietly, not touching anything. Grant tried to keep an eye on him, but the boy moved too fast, disappearing between aisles. When Grant checked the security cameras, every aisle was empty, yet he still heard footsteps and giggles. The bell on the counter rang. Grant looked up. The boy stood there, expression blank. "Return me," he whispered. Grant blinked. The boy was gone. 4 from that night on, the store whispered. At first just words, then names, then screams. Every employee quit within weeks. Grant stayed because corporate offered him a raise, but also because the bell wouldn't let him leave. Anytime he tried to quit, it rang. Sometimes it rang in his apartment, sometimes in his car, sometimes when he tried to sleep. He kept the drawer locked, though he knew it didn't matter. The bell could travel anywhere it wanted. One night he opened the store for inventory, something he swore he'd never do, but corporate insisted. He worked alone. At 2 a.m., the aisles filled with children, pale, silent, holding silver bells. They began to ring them all at once. The sound burrowed into his skull. When he woke, he was outside screaming. The store lights burned bright, though it was closed. Corporate never acknowledged his report. They told him to stop exaggerating and focus on customer experience. So he hired new employees. The bell stopped ringing, but the children didn't leave. They only waited and watched. Story 5. The Final Receipt. One Sarah returned to the store 3 weeks after her first shift. Not willingly. Her little brother Elliot had disappeared. The police found his bike near the Delhart Dollar Tree. His phone was inside the store. Grant denied seeing him, but Sarah knew he was lying. The way he stuttered, the sweat on his brow, the haunted look in his eyes. He whispered, "You shouldn't have come back." She grabbed him by the shirt. "Where is my brother?" Grant whispered. "They wanted him." "Who?" "The ones you hear. The ones who ring. The ones who never left." He unlocked the front door. "You can look," he said, "but you won't like what you find." Two inside, the store felt wrong immediately. Hot, heavy, like the air was breathing. No customers, no employees, just silence. Then, the bell on the counter rang. Sarah flinched. Grant whispered, "They know you're here." The lights flickered. Every aisle hummed. From the far end of the store, a child's voice whispered, "Sarah!" She froze. It was Elliot's voice. She ran toward the sound. Grant yelled after her, "Don't follow him!" But she ignored him. She reached the toy aisle. Elliot stood there, barefoot, eyes black, skin white like paper. He smiled weakly. "Help me." She threw her arms around him, sobbing, until she realized her hands passed through him like smoke. Elliot flickered, like a dying film reel. A silver bell hung from his neck. "Give him back," she whispered. "Please." Elliot's face twisted. The bell rang, and the world changed. Shelves stretched impossibly tall, endless. The floor became black and reflective. Children wandered between aisles, hundreds, holding bells, candles, blank cards. Their whispers echoed, "Return him, return him, return him." A tall figure emerged, its face hidden behind a blank card, its body wrapped in tinsel and rags. It held a receipt in his long white fingers. It offered it to Sarah. 4. The receipt listed only one item, soul, $1. The total line read, "No returns." "No," she whispered. "It's a lie." She tore the receipt. A shriek ripped through the void. The children covered their ears. The figure staggered. The bells clanged wildly. Elliot collapsed, fading. "No!" she screamed. She grabbed him, but her hands passed through. He whispered, "You shouldn't have come," and vanished. The world snapped back. Sarah was in the stockroom. Black candles burned all around. A child stood in front of her, face blank. It held out a silver bell. "Your change," it whispered. The candles went out. Darkness swallowed her. 5 morning arrived. Grant found the store empty. No Sarah. Her car still in the parking lot. On the counter, a small silver bell. He opened the drawer. Inside were 2 bells. He closed it, shaking. The lights flickered. A child's voice whispered, "Next." Epilogue, Dollar Tree, always hiring. The Dollar Tree off Delhart Road still stands. The sign still flickers. Sometimes after midnight, the doors open by themselves. If you listen closely, you'll hear bells ringing from the aisles, soft, pleading. Inside, the shelves are fully stocked. The price is always $1. A silver bell sometimes appears in your basket without you noticing. If you hear a child whisper behind you, do not turn. If the intercom hisses, do not answer. If a receipt prints without a purchase, do not read it. It only lists one item, soul, $1. No returns, but the real warning is at the bottom. Handwritten in fading ink. Inventory never ends. We always need more. The bell rings. You are invited. Welcome to Dollar Tree.